Hey everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to crochet Tinseltoes the elf. Whisking through the winter's night with a jingle in each step, this elf is a master of merriment. Tinseltoes can be made in sport, DK, or plush weight yarn by adjusting your hook size. Today I'll be crocheting with worsted weight and a 4mm crochet hook. If you haven't already, be sure to snag the matching greeting card to make an adorable and one-of-a-kind gift that your friends and family will love. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so we're starting in on the head and we're using this flesh tone colored yarn, and we need to begin by forming a magic ring. So let's review how to get a magic ring formed and how to make our first few single crochet stitches inside. Alright, so let's review how to form a magic ring. So we're going to start by taking a little length of our yarn, and I'm using white for this demonstration. Make sure you're using the correct color for the pattern that you are following along with. So I'm going to take this white, and I'm going to reserve myself a little bit of a tail. So I'm going to take the end of that yarn and I'm going to stretch it so I've got about 5 inches or so of a tail. And the tail is going to be the end that is not attached to our ball of yarn. So once we've got about 5 inches or so reserved of that tail, we're going to take our yarn hand. For me, that's my left hand, but if you're a left-handed crocheter, this might be your right hand. But we're going to take our yarn hand and make a bit of a finger guns here. So my index and my middle finger, I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to be looking at the inside of them. Then I'm going to take that tail that I've reserved, that 5 inches, and I'm going to lay it so that it's over the lower digit on my index and my middle. And then I'll take my thumb and I'm going to press the yarn to those 2 fingers. Then I'm going to take my hook hand, which is for me my right hand, but could be your left hand. And I'm going to grab the working yarn. Once I've got that grabbed, I'll take it and I'm going to wrap it around the back side of my index and my middle finger so that it's sort of close to that top digit. I'll flip my hand over so you can see. So I want it to be close to my top digit, so you can see it's closer to the 2 tops of my fingers here. So we're going to wrap that around. And then once we've got it around the top digit of those 2 fingers, we're going to bring it so that it goes behind our thumb again. So I use my thumb and I pinch that second wrap in place. Then we're going to keep wrapping, this time going around the lower digit on our 2 fingers. So I'll flip my hand over so you can see these 2 wraps here. This is that one I just made, going around that lower digit. So we'll wrap around that lower digit. And then we're going to take our working yarn and one more time snug it behind our thumb. And then just pull it out of our way. So once we've done that, we should have 2 wraps and this sort of X shape on the insides of our hands. So once we have all of the yarn wrapped around our yarn hand here, we're ready to take our crochet hook in our hook hand. And we're going to flip our yarn hand over so that we're looking at the back side of our fingers. So we should have 2 wraps, one around the top digit, one around the lower digit on our yarn hand. We're going to take our hook and slip it underneath that top wrap, and then use the hook part to snag that lower wrap and bring it underneath the top wrap. Then we're going to take both of our hands and we're going to flip them over so that we're looking at the inside and away from our body. So I'm flipping out and away from my body. And then I'm going to bring my 2 hands together, so my yarn hand and my hook hand. I'm going to bring them so the index finger here on my hook hand can touch the back side of my yarn hand. Then using the thumb and index finger of my hook hand, I'm going to grab both the wrap on my hook and the wrap still on my fingers right where they meet. So I'm going to kind of snag the 2 of them together right there. Once I've got those pinched between my thumb and index finger on my hook hand, I can let go with my thumb and then gently slide those wraps off of my index and middle finger. So now that I've done that, let's locate both the tail, that's the end that's no longer attached to our ball of yarn, so it's got this blunt cut end on it. We're going to kind of pull that over into the 12 o'clock position, so kind of up and away. And then let's locate the working yarn. That's the stuff still attached to our ball of yarn. So once we've got those two identified, we're going to take the working yarn and begin tensioning it. So to do that, we'll take our index finger on our yarn hand. That for me is my left hand. Could be your right hand for you if you're a left-handed crocheter. And we're going to slip the working yarn over the top of our index finger. Then we'll take our middle, ring, and pinky finger on our yarn hand, and we're going to wrap those around that working yarn. Once you've done that, we also need to sandwich this working yarn in between our magic ring and our tail. So to do that, I like to take my middle finger and thumb on my yarn hand, and I'm going to grab that tail with my middle finger here. And then with my thumb, I want to grab the ring. So we don't want to grab our working yarn, which is kind of going in through that ring. We want to just get the bottom end of the ring here. And once you've got those two, we're going to kind of pinch them together. And you can see that sandwiches our working yarn in between the two of them. Once we've got those grabbed with our yarn hand, we can let go with our index and thumb on our hook hand. And the ring here that's on our hook is really loose. We'll tighten that by pulling our index finger up and away. You can see how that tightens that yarn. And then once we've done that, we're ready to yarn over and draw through the loop on our hook. So we'll take our hook, put the yarn over our hook. So I kind of just swing around the back side there and grab it. And we're going to pull that working yarn directly through the loop on our hook. Once we've done that, you can let go. It's not going to come undone. It won't come untied, which is very comforting because we've spent all this time creating it. The last thing we need to do before we're ready to begin is we're going to take the tail, and you can see it's threaded through our magic ring. We're going to take that tail and we're going to pull it out from the center of that ring. And from here, we're ready to begin working in the magic ring. We also need to work over the tail as well. So we'll take that ring and we'll take the tail and we're going to set them together so that we are working over both of these strands, the ring and the tail. All right, you are ready to go ahead and continue on in your pattern. All right, so now that we have our magic ring formed, we're ready to go ahead and start in on round 1. And for round 1, we need to put 6 single crochet stitches inside of this magic ring. So remember, we're going to be working in both the ring and around the tail itself. So we'll go ahead and begin by taking our crochet hook and going through that ring and underneath the tail that we used to tie the ring. And then we need to yarn under, meaning we're going to put the yarn underneath our hook. And then use our crochet hook to grab that yarn and draw it up into a nice tall loop onto our crochet hook. And we have 2 loops on our hook right now. Then to finish that single crochet stitch, we're going to yarn over, meaning we're going to put the yarn over our crochet hook, and then use the hook to draw that yarn through the 2 loops on our hook. And that makes our first single crochet stitch for round 1. We also need to mark this stitch here, this little V shape that it makes. And we'll do that by taking our stitch marker and pushing it underneath both sides of that V and then locking it in place. So there's our first single crochet stitch. We need 6 total for this round, so we need to make the remaining 5 the same way that we've made the first. We'll take our crochet hook, go underneath the tail and through that ring, yarn under and draw up a nice tall loop, then yarn over and draw through both. That forms our second single crochet stitch. We're going to continue adding them in the same manner until we have 6 stitches total at the end of our round. Alright, so I have all 6 of my stitches total. I can double check that I have the right amount by turning my work here on the side so I can see the tops of that little V shape. And counting them, so the first one's marked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this loop here on my hook does not count as a stitch, so don't include that in your count. So when you have all 6 of your single crochet stitches, we can do the magic part of our magic ring. Take that tail and give it a tug, which tightens that first round and sets us up for round 2. So round 2, we need to make 6 increases, which is when we put 2 single crochet stitches in the same space from the previous round. And we're going to start by putting our first increase in this stitch that we have marked. So we're going to unlock our stitch marker and take it out, and then slip our hook through just like our stitch marker was slipped through. So we're going to push from front to back through underneath those little legs of the stitch. And then from here we'll make our single crochet stitch just like we did in our magic ring. We'll yarn under and draw through the fabric of the work to form a nice tall loop. And then yarn over and draw through both loops to finish our single crochet stitch. Then we want to mark that stitch that we just created with the stitch marker we took out. Since this is the first stitch of the round, we always want to mark this one. And then to finish our increase, we need to make a second single crochet stitch in the same stitch from round 1. So you can see our first stitch is coming out of that first stitch from round 1, and I've got it marked. I need to go through that same space a second time and make a second single crochet stitch to make an increase. So I'll take my hook and I'm going to push it through that same place and make a second single crochet stitch. So you can see I have 2 of these little V shapes coming out of the same stitch from the previous round. Then I'll need to go to the next stitch of my round, so I'm going to rotate around a little bit. You can see here's my second stitch. I'm going to go through, yarn under and draw up a loop, and then yarn over and draw through both. And then to finish that increase, I'll have to do that a second time, so go through that same space, and draw up a loop, and then draw through both. And we're going to continue increasing in the same way, going through each of the stitches from round 1 and placing 2 stitches in each. And that doubles the amount of stitches that we have, giving us 12 stitches total at the end of round 2. Alright, so I'm at the end of round 2, and before I move on to round 3, I like to give my magic ring tail one final pretty tight tug, then flip my work over and give this tail a trim. So I'm not going to cut it all the way off, I'm just going to cut it short. And that keeps it out of my way as I continue working around. Okay, so we're ready for round 3, and round 3 we've got a set of parentheses inside our instructions in a specific order. We're going to follow those instructions in the order that they appear, the amount of times indicated on the outside of those parentheses. So to translate that, in the first stitch of the round we're going to place 1 single crochet stitch, then in the next stitch of the round we're going to increase, so 2 single crochet stitches. And that's 1 repetition. Then we're going to keep repeating that pattern, 1 increase, 1 increase, 1 increase, 6 times total, which will give us 18 stitches at the end of round 3. So let's try that out. We'll take our stitch marker out of our first stitch of the round and put that first instruction, 1 single crochet stitch, inside of that stitch, and then of course mark that one. We always want to mark the first stitch of our round. And then in the next stitch, the second stitch of the round, we're going to place 1 increase. So 2 single crochet stitches inside of the same stitch from round 2. And that's 1 repetition of that parentheses pattern. So we're going to continue repeating that. 1 single crochet stitch in the next stitch, and then an increase right after, until we have repeated it 6 times total, and that will take us to the very end of the round. I just made my last increase of round 3, and that takes me to round 4, where I'm going to start by putting one single crochet stitch in the first stitch of our round. And then an increase right after that. And then we have a new parentheses pattern to repeat, where we're going to put one single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches and then increase. And then if you look, we're going to repeat that parentheses pattern 5 times, and that will take us to the very last stitch of the round, where we'll put just one single crochet stitch. So let's make that parentheses pattern. 1 single crochet stitch, 2 single crochet stitches, and then an increase. And that's 1 repetition, so we're going to do that 4 more times for a total of 5. And we'll have 1 single crochet to finish this round. Alright, so I've just finished that last repetition with an increase, and I've got 1 more single crochet stitch to finish off round 4. And I'm ready for round 5. So we've got a new parentheses pattern here. This time we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 3 stitches of the round. So I've got 1, 2, 3 single crochet stitches, and then we'll follow those with 1 increase. And that's 1 repetition of that parentheses pattern, so let's do that 5 more times to finish off this round. Alright, so that's the end of round 5 for me. Round 6, we're going to begin by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches of the round. And then we're going to increase. And now we've got another parentheses pattern to repeat, where we need to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 4 stitches of the round. And then place 1 increase. And we'll repeat that pattern of 4 single crochet stitches, increase another 4 times for a total of 5 repetitions until we get to the last 2 stitches of our round. Alright, I'm at my last 2 single crochet stitches. I'm going to place 1 single crochet stitch in each. And that wraps up round 6. So round 7, we've got a new parentheses pattern. We'll start by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the next 5 stitches. And then after those 5 single crochet stitches, we're going to place 1 increase. And then we'll repeat that sequence 5 more times for a total of 6 repetitions all the way around this round. Alright, so that's round 7 done for me. Round 8, we need to put 1 single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around. So don't forget to put your stitch marker in for this first single crochet stitch. And then we're just going to continue putting 1 single crochet stitch in every stitch until we get back to the stitch marker. Alright, that's the end of round 8 for me. Round 9, we're going to begin by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the next 3 stitches of the round. Once we have those first 3 single crochet stitches, we'll put 1 increase. And then we have another parentheses pattern to repeat, where we're going to place 1 single crochet stitch in the next 6 stitches. So there are those 6 single crochet stitches. We'll follow that with 1 increase. And we're going to repeat that sequence 4 more times for a total of 5, which will take us to the last 3 stitches of the round. Alright, so there was that last increase in that repetition pattern. I'll end this round by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the remaining 3 stitches of the round. Alright, so that's round 9 done. So for rounds 10 through 19, we're going to be putting 1 single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around. So don't forget, at the beginning of each round, you need to move your stitch marker up to the first stitch of the round. And I will see you back here whenever I have finished round 19 and we're ready to place the safety eyes onto the head. Alright, so I have just finished the last single crochet stitch of round 19 and I'm ready to go ahead and get the safety eyes added. So I'm going to take my crochet hook and I'm going to pull the loop really long and then remove my hook. And then our pattern's telling us that we need to insert our safety eyes between the 14th and 15th rounds and leave about 5 single crochet stitches between them. So let's start by taking our work and flipping it over so our long loop is on the back side. Also, a quick note, if this project is going to be for a small child or for a pet, you may want to embroider on the eyes instead of using safety eyes. But if not, you're good to go ahead and grab your safety eyes. And we're going to count up from that last round, which was the 19th round, until we get to the 15th round. So 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, and our safety eye is going to go right in between that 14th and 15th round. We'll count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches, and then wedge that safety eye between the 14th and 15th round as well. Then we can take the little plastic backs that come with our eyes and snap them on the inside. We can just push it down onto that stem and snap in place. So those are the eyes attached. And we're ready to go ahead and continue working, so we can reinsert our crochet hook into that loop we drew up long and then pull to draw that loop back down. And we're ready for round 20. We've got another parentheses pattern to repeat. We'll start by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the next 6 stitches of the round. So there are those 6 single crochet stitches. Then we need to decrease. So to do a decrease, we're going to take our crochet hook and go through the next stitch and yarn under and draw up a loop. And then we need to draw up another loop by going through our next stitch, yarning under and drawing up a loop. So you can see I have 2 loops, one coming up through each of the next 2 stitches. Then to decrease, we're going to yarn over and draw through all 3 of the loops on our hook. And you can see that takes 2 stitches and combines it into 1 stitch, decreasing the amount of stitches we have in this round. So we're going to continue to repeat that pattern, 6 single crochet stitches and then a decrease, another 5 times for a total of 6 repetitions all the way around. Alright, that's round 20 done for me. Round 21, we've got another parentheses pattern to repeat, starting with 1 single crochet stitch in the next 5 stitches of the round. Once we've got those first 5 single crochet stitches, we need to place 1 decrease. Then we'll repeat that pattern of 5 single crochet stitches, decrease, 5 more times for a total of 6 repetitions. Alright, that's round 21 done for me. Round 22, we've got another parentheses pattern, and we'll put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 4 stitches of the round. After those first 4 single crochet stitches, we're going to place 1 decrease and repeat that sequence 5 more times for a total of 6. Alright, that's round 22 done for me. Round 23, we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 3 stitches of the round. After those first 3 single crochet stitches, we'll place 1 decrease and repeat that pattern of 3 single crochet stitches decrease 5 more times. Alright, that's round 23 done for me. Round 24, we'll begin by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches of the round. Once we have those first 2 single crochet stitches, we'll follow it with 1 decrease. And then repeat that pattern of 2 single crochet stitches, decrease 5 more times for a total of 6. Alright, that's the end of round 24. Before I make the last round of the head, which is round 25, I'm going to pull the loop on my hook long and add some stuffing to the inside of the head through the opening at the bottom at this point. Alright, so there's some stuffing on the inside of the head. I'll go ahead and take my crochet hook, go back through that loop and draw it down. And I'm ready to make that last round here on the head, round 25, starting with 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. And then decrease. And then we need to repeat that pattern of 1 single crochet stitch, decrease 5 more times. Alright, so there's that last single crochet stitch, well, that last decrease of round 25. I'm ready to fasten off, and to do that I'm going to take my stitch marker out and then make a slip stitch in the stitch it was just in. So to slip stitch, we're going to take our crochet hook, go through that stitch our stitch marker was in, yarn over, and draw through that loop, and then draw the loop we just created through the only other loop left on our hook. Then we're ready to fasten off the rest of the way. To do that, we'll take our working yarn and we're going to cut a tail with it, so reserve maybe 12 inches or so from the bottom of your piece, and then cut your working yarn. Then we'll take the loop on our hook and draw that loop long until the working yarn that we cut passes through as well. And then tighten that slip stitch down by tugging on the tail we cut to form a knot. Then we need to close off this last round, so we'll take the tail that we've cut and we'll thread the tail through the eye of our yarn needle. And then we need to sew through the front loops of these 12 remaining stitches from round 25. So when we've been crocheting, we've been slipping through both sides of that little V of our stitch. You can see I have both sides of that stitch here on my crochet hook. When we sew this last round closed, we want to grab just the front loop, which is the one closest to the surface or front of our work. And the way that we'll do that is we'll take our yarn needle and slip it up and in between those 2 stitches, so that the V shape, the 2 strands of the stitch. And we'll sew through and then continue going through the next stitch. And we're just going to keep rotating and sewing up between those V of each stitch until we're all the way around. Once you've sewn through all of those front loops from the last round, we're going to pull the tail that we've been sewing with gently, which will cinch this round closed. And then we need to secure this round by tying a knot that will keep it cinched. So to tie that knot, we're going to take our tail that we've been sewing with and loop it over the surface of our work. And then I like to sew up through that last stitch that I sewed through and up through that loop. And then by pulling what we are sewing with, the loop we've made will tie itself around the tail, which forms a knot, which you can see here. Then to hide this knot and to weave this tail in, I'm going to sew it up through the bottom part of our work where the cinch is, and then just out through any place here on the head. Once we've sewn it up through a random place on the head, we can unthread our yarn needle, and by holding and pulling that tail tightly and trimming close to the surface of our work, we'll weave in the remainder of the tail. You can discard what you didn't end up weaving in. And that wraps up the head. So let's move on to the next part of our pattern. Next, we need to add the eyelash detail here to the outsides of the eyes. So I went ahead and threaded some black embroidery floss through my embroidery needle. And I'm going to send my needle down through the spaces between stitches here to the outside of the left eye, and then come up directly above the left eye and centered. Then I'm going to pull, but I'm not going to pull all the way through. I'm going to leave a little tail on the outside of the head. And then the eyelash is going to just be run along the outside of the eye. So I'll sew down even with the corner of the eye, and then send my needle to the top and center of the left eye. And you can see that adds the eyelash detail here at the outside of the eye. I'll repeat on this side as well. And then send my needle all the way across and back up through where I went down and next to the tail that I have over here. You can see that adds that nice eyelash detail to the eyes here. Then I'm going to unthread my tapestry, my embroidery needle, and then I'm going to take these two tails and tie them tightly together. Then I'm going to cut them really short and close to the fabric of my work. And to hide the knot and tails to the inside, I'm going to take the end of my embroidery needle and grab the stitch to the right side of those and then pull up on that stitch. And then push those to the inside with the back of my needle. And you can see that hides them to the inside of the work. And that is the eyelash detail added. Alright, so next up we have the hat, and we're beginning in yellow yarn, and we need to start by forming another magic ring. Alright, so now that I have that magic ring formed, I'm ready for round 1, and we're going to put 6 single crochet stitches inside of this magic ring. Alright, so once you have those 6 single crochet stitches inside of your magic ring, you can pull the tail to close. And then the hat is made using joined round. So we're going to slip stitch to that first single crochet stitch that we made. So I'll take that marker out and slip stitch in it. And then I'm going to chain 1 stitch. Alright, so I'm ready for round 2, where we're going to make 6 increases. So I'm going to go to this first stitch here and create an increase and mark that first single crochet stitch. And I'll just keep increasing. Alright, so I'm all the way around, and you can see right in front of my stitch marker the chain 1 that we made to close last round off. So we're going to slip stitch to our first stitch here, and then chain 1. And that sets us up for round 3, where we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in each of the stitches all the way around. So I'll start by putting my first single crochet stitch. I'm going to mark that stitch and continue adding 1 single crochet stitch to each stitch all the way around. Alright, so there's all of my single crochet stitches for round 3. You can see I have my chain 1 from last round and then my stitch that I've marked. So we're going to slip stitch into that marked stitch and chain 1. And that sets us up for round 4, where we're going to place 6 decreases. So our first stitch we're going to decrease and then mark that decrease. And continue decreasing. Alright, so there's that last decrease. I'm going to take the magic ring tail, twist it around a little bit here, and put it inside of my work. And then we have a color change here. We're switching over to red, and we're going to be done using this yellow color. So I'm going to cut a tail with this yellow, and then get my red yarn ready. And we're going to make that slip stitch that we use to join the round in red. So I'm going to go ahead and take my stitch marker out and then put my hook through, and then I need to pull through with my new color. So I'm going to take my red and I'm going to loop it so I have a little bit of a tail. Then I'm going to put that loop here on my hook and then make my slip stitch with red. So I drew up through that stitch and I'm going to go through my yellow with the red color. Then I'm going to take the tail from the red and the tail from the yellow and pull them together behind my work. And we're ready for round 5. So we'll start by chaining 1 to end round 4. And round 5, we're going to be working in the back loops only, and we've got a parentheses pattern to repeat. So when we sewed the bottom of the head closed, we sewed through the front loops. Those are the ones that are closest to the surface of our work. To do the back loops, we're going to grab just the back loop of the stitch. And we also need to weave our tails in, so I'm going to take those 2 tails from the color change and lay them over my hook as well. And then I'm going to place 1 single crochet stitch in this back loop. So I'm going to yarn under and draw up through that stitch and around those tails, then yarn over to make my first single crochet stitch and then mark that stitch as well. So next I need to do the increase, so I'm going to grab the next back loop, then lay those 2 tails over my hook, then make my increase. I'm going to lay those 2 tails over for the second single crochet stitch of my increase. And then I've got those tails woven in for 3 stitches. I'm going to take them and I'm going to twist them together. And I'm also going to push them to the inside of the yellow pom-pom here at the top of the hat. And that will keep them out of my way and kind of weaves them in. So let's repeat that parentheses pattern of 1 single crochet stitch, 1 increase, another 2 times in the back loops. So here's my first single crochet stitch, and then a back loop increase, and then we've got that one more time. So 1 single crochet stitch in the back loops, and then 1 back loop increase. And then you can see that chain 1 we made here in red. And we're ready to move on to round 6 by taking our stitch marker out and placing one single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches. And we're out of the back loops now. We're in just both loops of our stitch. So here's that first single crochet stitch. Here's my second single crochet stitch. And then we'll increase. And we're going to repeat that another 2 times. So one single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches. And then an increase. Alright, so you can see I've just finished that last increase and I'm ready to change colors now. So just like we did last time, we're going to slip stitch to that first stitch of the round. But we're going to pull through the slip stitch with our new color, which is this white. However, we're not going to be cutting the red yarn as we're going to be coming back to it. So we're going to be leaving that red yarn attached and in the back of our work, and attaching our new color, which is this white. We'll do that the same way we attached the red. So we'll make a little loop and pull through and make that slip stitch with our white color. And we're going to leave that red still attached. And then we'll chain 1 to end that round. And we need to work in the white tail from when we fastened on for round 7. So round 7, we're going to start by putting one single crochet stitch. Actually, we're going to just put one single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around. So I'll go through my next stitch, lay that white tail over my hook as well, and then make a single crochet stitch here, and then mark that stitch. And continue single crocheting, one single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around. Alright, so there are those 12 single crochet stitches, and you can see that little chain 1 that I made. So I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch to that first stitch of the round. And then chain 1, which ends round 7. So for round 8, we've got another parentheses pattern to repeat. We're going to put one single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. And don't forget to mark. And then we'll put one increase in the next stitch. Then we'll repeat that repetition pattern of one single crochet stitch, one increase, another 5 times for a total of 6. Alright, so that is my last increase, and then we've got another color change, and our red is still attached, so we're going to just slip stitch to the first stitch of the round. So we'll drop the white yarn behind our work. And the red yarn that's already behind, we're going to grab and make our slip stitch with that red. Then we'll chain 1 in red, which is our color change. And that sets us up for round 9, and we're going to put one single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around for round 9. And we don't have any tails to work in because we didn't attach anything on. So just one single crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around. Alright, so I am all the way around round 9. I'm going to end by taking my stitch marker out, slip stitching to where it just was, and then chaining 1. And I'm ready for round 10, where I've got a new parentheses pattern to repeat. I'll put one single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches of my round, and then increase. I'm going I'm going to repeat that pattern another 5 times for a total of 6 repetitions. Alright, so that's the end of round 10. I've got another color change back to the white. So I'm going to make that slip stitch in my new color, and I'll do that by dropping the red behind and picking up the white, and going through where my stitch marker just was and slip stitching in white, and then chaining 1. And I'm ready for round 11, where I'm just going to put 1 single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around. Alright, so that's the end of round 11. Again, I'm going to slip stitch to the first stitch and chain 1. And I'm ready for round 12, where I'm going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 3 stitches. So there are those first 3 single crochet stitches, and then an increase. Then I'm going to repeat that pattern of 3 single crochet stitches, 1 increase, another 5 times for a total of 6 repetitions. Alright, so there's that last increase here, and I'm ready to switch colors. So I'm going to do that again by slip stitching in the red, dropping the white behind. So I'm going to grab the red that's still attached, and I'm going to slip stitch in it. And then chain 1. And then I'm ready to start in on round 13, where we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around. Alright, so there's the end of round 13. I'll slip stitch and chain 1. Which sets me up for round 14, where I've got 1 single crochet stitch in the next 4 stitches of my round. There are those first 4 single crochet stitches, then I'm going to put 1 increase. Then I'll repeat that pattern of 4 single crochet stitches, 1 increase, 5 more times for a total of 6 repetitions. Alright, so there's the last increase here on round 14, so I'm going to change back to that white color. I'll take my stitch marker out, drop the red behind my work, and then slip stitch with the white that's still attached. And then chain 1. And then for round 15, I'm going to put 1 single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around. Alright, so there's that last single crochet stitch. I'm ready to go ahead and take my stitch marker out and slip stitch and chain 1. And I'm ready for round 16, where I'm going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 5 stitches of the round. And then an increase. And I'll repeat that another 5 times for a total of 6 repetitions. Alright, so I'm ready to switch to red, and I'm done actually with our white, so I'm going to go ahead and trim the white and leave a tail behind here. And then when I switch back to the red, I'm going to be weaving this white tail in. So we're going to go ahead and take that stitch marker out. And we're slip stitch with the red in that stitch. And then we need to take the white tail with us as we work the next couple of stitches here. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 in red. And then for round 17, we're going to be putting 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around. So I'm going to lay that white tail over my hook and work that tail in as I work my way around. So there's that first single crochet stitch. Alright, so I'm all the way around. I'm ready to go ahead and slip stitch and chain 1. And I'm ready for round 18. We're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 6 stitches of the round. Those first 6 single crochet stitches and then 1 increase. Then I'll repeat that another 5 times for a total of 6 repetitions. Alright, so there's that last increase here for round 18, and we're going to be switching to the color green. So we're going to be fastening our red off. So we'll cut a tail. And then just like we've done when we've changed colors so far, we're going to be pulling through that slip stitch in our new color. So I'll take that stitch marker out, push my hook through, make a little loop out of my new color, and pull that through the slip stitch. And we've got 2 tails to work in this time, the green one that we just used to fasten on and the red one that we cut. So we're going to start by chaining 1 in green. And that sets us up for round 19, where we're going to be putting 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around. So don't forget, we're going to be laying those tails over our hook to weave them in. So there's that first single crochet stitch in green. I'll mark it. I'm going to weave these tails in for a few more stitches. Alright, I think I've woven those tails in enough. I'll just tuck them to the inside of the hat, along with all the other ones, and continue working around. Alright, that's round 19 done. I'll go ahead and slip stitch to the first stitch of the round to close, then chain 1. And I'm ready for round 20, where I'm going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 5 stitches. There are those 5 single crochet stitches. Then I'll place 1 increase. And then I need to repeat that pattern of 5 single crochet stitches, 1 increase, 7 more times for a total of 8 repetitions. Alright, that's round 20 done. Go ahead and slip stitch and chain 1 to end. Then for round 21, we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around. Alright, so I'm all the way around. I'm ready to go ahead and slip stitch and chain 1. And I'm ready for my last round here, which is round 22, where we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 20 stitches of the round. Alright, so I've got those 20 single crochet stitches. Then we're going to be putting 1 single crochet stitch in the next 11 front loops. So we worked in the back loop only up here when we made the yellow pom-pom. So working in the front loop, rather than grabbing both, we're going to just grab the front part of our stitch and then make our single crochet stitch inside. And we'll continue working in those front loops for 11 single crochet stitches total. Alright, so there are those 11 front loop only single crochet stitches. Then we've got 1 single crochet stitch in the next 25 stitches of the round. Alright, so that was my last stitch. I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch to the first stitch of the round. And then I'm ready to fasten off. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a long tail. Then I'm going to pull that last slip stitch until the tail goes through and tighten down. And then I'm going to go inside the hat here and trim some of these tails short so they stay out of my way. And that is the hat done. Alright, so next up we need to put the hair on the inside of the hat. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to be attaching onto those back loops that we didn't crochet in on round 22 of the hat. So I'm going to start by flipping the brim up and locating those loops that were left behind. So I'm going to actually flip my hat over so that the yellow pom-pom's sort of facing down. And then find those loops. And then we're going to take our crochet hook and we're going to push into the first of those loops. So we'll take our crochet hook and we're going to just go through that first loop here, just like this. And we need to fasten on some brown yarn for the hair. Alright, so we have our hook pushed through that first loop. We're going to take that brown colored yarn and loop it over on itself just like we did when we did the color changes on the hat. So I'm going to grab that loop and I'm going to pull it through that back loop left behind on the inside of the hat. Then I'm ready to go ahead and begin making the hair strand. I'm going to do that by chaining 6 stitches. So to chain, I'm going to yarn over and draw up through the loop on my hook, and that forms my first chain. So I'll yarn over and chain another, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I'm going to be making a half double crochet stitch in the 3rd chain from my hook. So we don't count the loop on our hook. So 1, 2, 3. In that 3rd chain, I'm going to make a half double crochet stitch. So to do that, I'm going to wrap my yarn around my hook, then go through that 3rd chain. Then I'm going to yarn under and draw up a loop. So I'll have 3 on my hook, and then yarn over and draw through all 3. So there's my first half double crochet. I need to add 1 more to the 3 remaining chain stitches that we have. So again, wrap my yarn around my hook, go through my next chain, yarn under and draw up a loop, then yarn over and draw through all 3. There's my second half double crochet. Here's my 3rd. And 1 more, which is in that chain stitch, the first one that we made here. So there's that last half double crochet stitch. And then we're going to slip stitch in the next 2 front loops here on the hat. So 1, 2. So those are those 2 slip stitches. So you need to repeat that pattern another 4 times. So we're going to chain 6 stitches. And then make 1 half double crochet in the 3rd chain from our hook. And continue half double crocheting down that chain. So there's my last half double crochet stitch on that chain, and I'm going to slip stitch in the next 2 front loops left here on the hat. And I'll keep repeating that. I am all the way across those back loops left behind, and I'm ready to fasten off, so I've made my last strand of hair. I'm going to do that by going through that last back loop, or that last loop left behind, and I'm going to make a slip stitch. And then I'm going to cut a tail with this brown yarn here. Pull that last slip stitch through and tighten down. You can see that forms the strands of hair here at the front of the hat. But I need to weave these tails in that I use to fasten on. So I'm going to start by weaving in that first tail. I'm going to thread the eye of my tapestry needle here with the tail left over from when I fastened on. And I'm just going to weave it in along the inside of the green here. So there's that woven in. I'll go ahead and give it a trim. And I'll do the same thing with the brown on this end, the end that I just fastened off with. I'm going to weave it in, just sew it in along the inside stitches of the hat. And that weaves the strands in from when we crocheted the hair. So now we are ready to go ahead and put the hat on and get it sewed on. So the hat's going to sit here on the head so that the hair comes down to the eyes but doesn't cover them. So about here. And then I'm going to use the green from the hat itself to sew the hat onto the head. So I'm going to go ahead and thread the green tail from the hat onto my tapestry needle here. And I would like to sew the hat so that I am sewing sort of on that second to last round. So I'm going to take this tail and I'm going to send it up to that round. Here's round 22 of the hat. I'm going to sew up to the top of round 21. And then I'm going to be sewing along that space, so between round 21 and 20, by grabbing some of the fabric of the head and then some of the fabric of the hat. I'm just going to be sewing around, attaching the hat to the head. Alright, so I've got the hat sewn on all the way around, and I'm ready to go ahead and tie a knot and weave in my tail. So I'm going to make another surface knot by looping my tail over the surface of my work, sewing up to that last stitch that I sewed through and into the center of that loop, and then by pulling the tail, that loop will wrap itself around. And we can weave this in by sewing it into the head and out through just any old place here on the hat. You can unthread your tail from your needle and trim, and that gets the hat and the hair attached to the head. So let's move on to the next part of our pattern. Alright, so next up we need to make the ears. So I'll show you how to make the first one, and then you'll need to come back and make a second one and then we'll get them attached to the head. So we're going to start with this skin colored yarn and by forming another magic ring. Alright, now that I have that magic ring formed, I'm ready for round 1, where we're going to put 6 single crochet stitches inside. Alright, once you have all 6 single crochet stitches inside of that magic ring, you can pull the tail, which sets us up for round 2, where we've got a parentheses pattern to repeat. We'll put 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. And then an increase. And then we're going to repeat that another 2 times, so 1 single crochet stitch, 1 increase, Alright, that's round 2 done. Round 3, we've got a new parentheses pattern to repeat. We're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches of the round. And then 1 increase. And then repeat that pattern another 2 times. Alright, that's round 3 done, and for round 4, which is the last round, we're just going to put 1 single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around. Alright, there's the last single crochet stitch of round 4, so I'm going to slip stitch in the first stitch of the round, and then cut a tail long enough to sew with 6 to 8 inches. Then I'll pull that last slip stitch until the tail I cut passes through and tighten down. I'm also going to trim the magic ring tail so it's even with the opening here on the ear. And then we need to thread this tail through the eye of our tapestry needle. And then we're going to fold the ear flat. So I've got mine folded flat with the tail over here on the right hand side. And then fold the ear in half. And then I'm going to sew through the other side of the ear, sort of cinching it into sort of this folded pointy shape. And I'll reinforce that by sewing a second time through both layers here. Alright, so that is one of the ears done. Let's make one more and then get them attached. Alright, so I have both of the ears ready to go here, and I'm going to attach them onto the head here, and they're going to go just underneath the hat and even with the rows that we put the safety eyes through, and then sort of angled downwards. So I'm going to go ahead and sew through both layers of the ear and through the fabric of the head. And also a couple of stitches to get the ear fully attached to the head here. Alright, so I have the ear attached all the way across the back side of the ear, And I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna flip the brim of the hat out of my way so I can tie a surface knot here onto the fabric of the head. And then weave that tail into the head. And then cut any that I didn't need. And that is one ear attached. Let's repeat with the other ear on the other side. Alright, so I have both of the ears attached here to the head, and I've got one last thing to do, which is to add the rosy cheeks here. So I'm going to go ahead and take just a little bit of face blush, but you can also use acrylic paint or colored pencil. And I'm going to dab a little of this onto the face, where the cheeks would be. And with the rosy cheeks added, this wraps up Tinseltoes tutorial.